Hello, friends, and welcome back to Scaling Stories. Today, I've got some more highly upvoted posts from Best of Redditor updates for y'all. Like always, I'll be reading you the posts and giving you my opinions, and I'll also be working on building up my Minecraft world at the same time, so I hope you enjoy. Also, I'm currently only in Spotify's creator program, so watching on there would help me out a ton. Thank you so much for your support. Today's first story comes from the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was posted by ThrowRA, Wife of Fur, on September 25, 2019, and was titled, Wife's 29 female, Frenemy, 30 female, sent me an email outlining my wife's attempt to reconcile with her ex, 35 male, and sleeping with him as we were getting more serious. I'm at work and don't know how to respond to any of this. My wife, 29 female, and I, 28 male, have been together for 4 years and married less than a year. Let me also preface this by saying I have a cold and I'm in desperate need of sleep. My wife, Katie, and I started dating when I was in grad school. We were in the same social circle. She was in a relationship with a guy we'll call Mike, and it was clear it wasn't going to work long term. Mike was a free spirit and had a lot of personal issues, so none of us were surprised when they broke up. He decided to go on a retreat/road trip with his ex-girlfriend for 6 months and disappeared. She got over the relationship, and about a year later, we started dating. It was an odd coupling. We're very different. She's a lot more artistic and free than I am. We're on different levels in the looks department, and many of the things that makes us who we are seemingly opposites. I'm more buttoned up and traditional, and she's not. A couple of months in, we hit a rough patch, but we worked through it. From then on, things were great. We moved in, I proposed, we got married, and that brings us to today, where we're trying for a kid. My wife's frenemy, Danielle, has never really been supportive of our relationship, and they've been friends since middle school but have had several falling outs over the years. Recently, my wife couldn't/didn't attend an event hosted by Danielle, which prompted this recent outburst and, along with it, the end of their friendship. Danielle sent me an email saying that when Katie and I got together, she was unsure of which person to choose. So when Mike returned, she went to him to talk about them. They met a few times during the first 2 weeks he was back, and apparently had sex once or twice. According to Danielle, Katie ended it and never told me anything about it. She confided in Danielle about it years ago, and, I guess, thought the matter was closed. I got the email this morning at 10 and was surprised Danielle emailed me and read it. Probably 30 minutes later, I get text from my wife asking if I got an email from Danielle and if I read it. When I answered in the affirmative, she sent me a deluge of long texts explaining that it did happen. They had sex once and had coffee 3 times, and that she hasn't spoken to him since. I'm not sure what to respond. I have a cold and have been trying to get work done so I can rest when I get home. I don't even know how to deal with this. Part of me wants to go home, get into bed, and sleep, pretending I never found out. Another part of me is furious that she hid this from me. I had a feeling she had seen her ex, but then she came to me a week or so later and wanted me to confirm we were exclusive and I wasn't seeing anyone else. Part of me is terribly mad at Danielle for dragging this crap up years later. I don't know what to do here. Is this that bad a transgression? It feels like it was so far in the past that I don't know how to respond to my wife or Danielle. Scaling Stories Corner. So, I think it's pretty bad that while OP was viewing Katie as his number one option at the time, Katie wasn't sure, and she even went to go sleep with Mike. To me, I don't understand what the need for one last sex session would be needed unless she thought Mike was a better option than OP at the time. Because who's not to say Katie went to Mike, slept with him, and she says she hasn't spoken to him since? But what if it's the other way around? What if it's Mike who decided not to speak to Katie anymore? This reminds me of a Reddit story where OP had a girlfriend at the time, and before she became exclusive with OP, she went to go talk to her ex to see if he would take her instead of OP. And when he said he didn't want anything except for no strings attached sex, she still slept with him. And that's the same kind of disrespect that I'm feeling here for OP. I don't know how long OP and Katie were dating at the time because they weren't quote unquote exclusive at the time. But if I'm dating you for 3 months or let's say 3 weeks and I find out you're sleeping with other people, then I think I'm out. That's not really my thing, even if we're not technically labeled as exclusive. And I know maybe some people will disagree with me, but I just kind of find that to be like a turnoff in a relationship. Now for OP, he's married to Katie already and has been with her for 4 years. So maybe, like just maybe, that the time spent with Katie has been that great and enjoyable that you're willing to overlook this transgression, which again is a personal choice to do. I wouldn't fault OP for that. I think honestly, I would also find myself in a hard position too if I was OP and I truly loved Katie and then found out this happened. Because if this happened like maybe early on into the relationship and I knew about it, like if Danielle told me sooner, like way earlier in the relationship, I think I would have broken up with Katie. But now, after 4 years of like memories and history and experiences together, I'm honestly not sure. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, "You don't need to decide right now. You don't even need to decide tomorrow or this week. Sleep. Get over your cold. Think about it. Find someone to talk about it, maybe a counselor. Figure out how you feel. Then start to talk it out with your wife. Put trying for a kid on hold no matter what." Commenter 2 says, "No matter what happens between you and your wife, get as far away from Danielle as humanly possible. She is effing toxic. She totally destroyed you guys today for her own sick pleasure. Yes, I know your wife majorly effed up and she'll have to answer for that. If she actually cared about either of you, she wouldn't have kept it a secret this long and then dropped a bomb when it was convenient for her. God, some people are cancer." Commenter 3 says, "When did it happen? When you were first dating or when you were already deep into your relationship? I think that makes a difference. If you had no commitment and were just casually dating at the time, I can see why it would hurt now, but it seems like something you could work through. If you were farther into the relationship and had the expectation of exclusivity, this is more serious. How you handle it is up to you, but this would indicate a serious breach of trust, and who is to say that your wife wouldn't break that trust again if she hasn't already? One thing is for sure though, both you and your wife need to cut Danielle out of your life. Even if she told you an uncomfortable truth, she didn't do it to protect you. She did it to hurt your wife. She sounds horrible." Update 6 days later. "Sorry for the delay. It's been crazy. So, briefly, I didn't update because I was feeling really crappy. I took nighttime cold medicine really early and passed out and wound up taking Friday off. I binged Chernobyl and slept/recuperated. I didn't respond to Danielle, and my wife sort of left me alone to recover, as I felt like crap. She took care of me, but also didn't bring up the topic until I wasn't on my back. Once I started feeling better and could breathe through my nose again, I tried to calmly approach this. On the table was a pregnancy test. We've been trying for a while, with a little bow on it. I had previously noticed that she was late, but my wife and I had a few very late periods and no pregnancy, so I wasn't sure what's what. I'm pretty sure I mentioned trying for a kid in my original post. So, that adds a layer of complexity to all this. To answer some of your questions. 1. In general, things were great between my wife and me and have been for years. The real problem we had was in those first few months, which involved a number of issues about being in a new relationship. We rarely fought. Things were very happy. We had a great sex life. We openly talked about everything. I would never imagine that I'd be sent something like this. 2. Exclusive? We had never talked about it. It was never stated one way or the other. I assumed we were, but I guess not. 3. Her ex. He's a writer. Let me rephrase, a writer who has never written. Mike and I have met a few times by accident and once because he was invited to a party we went to. He's not really that interesting/threatening, and my wife seems totally nonplussed with him. The last time we saw him was in a bookstore, and she didn't at all seem interested. She later said she was glad it didn't work out and was happy without him in her life. 4. Danielle. Danielle and Katie have been friends for 2 decades, but the last couple of years, things became contentious. Katie and I got together, and Danielle's marriage fizzled out. Danielle can be a nice person, but is difficult, and I think she's jealous that our relationship was, until that point, very successful. She and I didn't really spend that much time together, and she retreated from my wife's life when she found out we were trying for a kid. In the wake of all this, their friendship is ruined, that's for sure. I was feeling crummy and watched back-to-back episodes of TV and did nothing all day Friday. I literally did nothing beyond getting up to take some medicine/eat and pee. That's it. I didn't broach the subject or even think about it. When my wife got home, I felt better and could think a bit more cogently. She does errands after work, which is when she dropped the test on the table and scrammed. A few people commented that we should wait to have kids. Well, that's not going to happen. She got back and we talked. The story is, and I have no reason to doubt her, she and Mike were dating. She was studying/working and he was writing. He asked to go on a writing retreat with his ex-girlfriend to a cabin somewhere so they could focus on their work. She said no, that it wasn't a good idea for him to be alone with his ex, and he went anyway. That translated into his leaving for some prolonged road trip with his ex. They kept in contact, but she and I started dating. We had been together 3 or 4 weeks when he returned, and they didn't see each other at first. My wife, like I said, is different from me. I'm a lot more traditional, a lot more formal, and I'm very, very career-oriented. When we hit a rough patch, there was more than an insubstantial chance I was going to have to move away, and she was going to have to decide to move with me after 2.5 to 3 months of seeing each other, or break up and move on. I had applied for a program, and it looked like the local program was going to reject me, but surprisingly, a better, far more well-known university was going to accept me. When things went down between them, I had been formally rejected and she had to make a decision. I was too focused on admission to even notice/care. They met up at a party and nothing happened. They just talked and had drinks. The second time they met, that's when the deed happened. She apparently regretted it immediately, and the final time was to tell him goodbye and that she was moving. They had a few drinks, fooled around, and then she left. She said Huh? Hold on. She said... that was trippy. I had to take a couple minutes to reread that. But I think OP was summarizing the events there, not that she just fooled around with him again. She said she knew it was a mistake. She knew they had no future and nothing in common anymore. Right around the time that they fooled around, she and I had a mega fight about moving. It was a lot for someone to deal with. I know. But in the end, she said she wanted to go, but was scared I was going to go to new city in my new program and dump her for a classmate, stranding her. I told her no and offered her whatever reassurances I could. It worked and we did live happily ever after. I would never have assumed she had cheated. I mean, putting it down, we were in a weird spot, and I fully understand why it was a rough time, but the cheating was really not something I could abide by. The whole exclusive thing came from us moving. I didn't put 2 plus 2 together at the time. I figured then that she wanted reassurances that moving with me wasn't a huge mistake. Not that she had recently bonked her ex, who has frequent and unprotected sex with many randoms, but again, it also makes sense. From then till about a month after we moved, we didn't have sex. Not once. I asked if she had been tested, and she just casually remarked, "Of course." I was still feeling crappy and didn't know what to do, so I just kind of went back to bed. In reality, for years, she's never strayed or been anything but open. She has access to my phone and I can access hers. She doesn't go out with unexplained absences and is more of a homebody. She isn't flirtatious with people or causing drama, so I just sort of stopped caring. I took the weekend to get over this cold, and we did some baby shopping online and planned for a follow-up with her doctor. After that, we just didn't talk about it again. Very anticlimactic. I did bring up the subject of Danielle and pretty directly told her I was done with her. She asked if she thought it would be wise to try and talk to her, and I said no. We wrote her an email using my account and sent her a response basically telling her that we were done with her and not to bother us again. She responded by saying it was a joke and asked that we understand that she was being funny. I found the block function on Gmail and added her. My wife noticed that she removed her from Facebook/Insta, and I guess that's that. Not really a thrilling or interesting update, and a few people will be angry that I didn't take a stronger tone/reaction, but I did what I felt was best under the circumstances. Hopefully, this is behind us, and I can just move on and enjoy bringing a new life into the world. Scaling Stories Corner. I don't know what you guys think, but we have now learned that when Katie slept with Mike, it was after seeing OP for 2 to 3 months. And to me, in my book, if you've been dating someone for 2 to 3 months, I kind of feel like you're kind of exclusive. But I'm also not a situationship kind of person. I can definitely see some of you saying that it's fine to sleep with someone else, even if you've been dating someone for 2 to 3 months, because technically you haven't put a label on the relationship. And if that's the case, like I'll be wrong. I'll just be wrong about the situation then. But I think if you've spent 2 to 3 months dating someone, that should be enough time to not want to sleep with someone else if that person is your number one option. And I think clearly OP was not Katie's number one option, but she took a risk and gambled on him. And then he ended up being her number one option because everything else worked out in OP's life. And that kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. And even though I just said all of that, right? Even though I just said all of that, I think in OP's situation, with a child being thrown into the mix, I don't think leaving makes sense for OP. If they were freshly married with no kid on the way, maybe. But since by his words, by the way, by his account, since the past 3 to 4 years have been very good, and they've only had one minor rough patch, then I agree with him that it seems like giving it a shot is worth it. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. Commenter 1 says, "Your wife has built years of being trustworthy, and you have decided to leave the past in the past, and it's not up to the people of Reddit to be angry with you for not reacting the way they would wish. Good luck, OP." Commenter 2 says, "Honestly, in the first few months of dating, without having a conversation of exclusivity, it's pretty common for there to be misalignments. It sounds like a messy beginning, but I don't think that's indicative of anything larger, and you've both since gone on to have a loving relationship and are building a family. I think cutting this asshat Danielle out of the equation and going on to have a wonderful life in her absence is a good call." Okay, friends, so that concludes our first story of the day. Next up, we have a story from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. It was posted by constellationRegulus on July 1st, 2022, and was titled, "Am I the Jerk for not going to my sister's wedding?" My sister is getting married and has banned my service dog from her wedding and reception. I have a fairly severe anxiety disorder. To combat this, I got a service dog. My dog has made a major positive change in my life. I can go places again. Another thing to keep in mind, my dog is probably an Australian Shepherd, Border Collie mix. She's also the most chill, laid back, and affectionate dog I have ever had the pleasure of working with. Her entire personality is sleep and can I has pets? She's insanely well behaved, especially when we go places. I get lots of compliments about this, including from the mental health professionals who work with me. My sister's reasoning for banning my service dog, and I quote, "I don't want dog hair on the most expensive dress I will ever wear." My sister is also worried about my dog's behavior, like barking or getting into food. My dog really doesn't do either of these things. Well, she barks if my sister's kids come over because she loves my sister's kids and is excited about them. She also used to lick my sister's kids' faces cause they are very small, but my sister didn't like this, so I made my dog stop. But my dog is trained not to bark when she is wearing her vest. She has never done so while working. She responds well to the word no and the leave it command. Again, super well-mannered dog. She legit just lies down when we go to the movies or a doctor's appointment and chills out or falls asleep. My sister believes none of this and has barely seen my service dog in action. After my sister decided this, both my parents and I have tried to compromise. My dog does shed, but there are ways to combat this, like a groomer, anti-shed shampoo, a good brush out the day of, and staying away from my sister on that day. My sister is unyielding. Now, the wedding is small and at a church I dislike, cause when I went to talk to a pastor about this situation, he basically told me to outgrow having an anxiety disorder. So that's stressful. And, of course, there are people I don't know there. The reception would be even worse for me because it will be loud, full of people, most of whom I won't know, and full of people who stress me out. Most of my extended family and I are iffy on the getting along front. Probably has something to do with the liberal ace NB cousin, not the point. I will also say my anxiety and depression have been super high for the last year or so. So, as much as it pains me, I cannot go to my sister's wedding. My mental health is not stable enough. I need my service dog's assistance in all public spaces in order to live as good a life as I can. I'm going with some church friends, good humans, I promise, to a planetarium instead. She has been informed of this. Not going is probably gonna hurt her feelings and strain our already strained relationship. So, am I the jerk? Scaling Stories Corner. Nah. I mean, if not going is going to hurt her feelings, then maybe she should actually, I don't know, let her sister, who has an anxiety disorder, bring her service dog to her wedding. And it's not like OP is the one that doesn't want to go to the wedding, but I don't think OP's sister actually likes OP and wants OP at the wedding in general. And it seems like she can easily target this dog and force OP not to come. Because I can't imagine actually caring about my sibling and then not trying to accommodate them in some way so they can be there for my special day. And also the excuse of like, you're scared about getting dog hair on your dress? Like, just wash it then, or get a lint roller. Like, surely it can't be that serious. I'm glad that at least it seems like OP's parents was on OP's side and tried to get the sister to compromise. But she's being a jerk, like bad sibling, bad human being, bridezilla. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the original post. Commenter 1 says, not going is probably gonna hurt her feelings and strain our already strained relationship. I doubt it. She may say that, but she is actively coming up with reasons for you to stay away. Not the jerk. OP says, I get that feeling, especially because her fiancé doesn't like me. The feeling is mutual. It's a really complex situation. Like, I've considered showing up out of spite, but she would face some serious consequences from her partner if I did, and it may put my service animal in danger. Plus, it kind of would be an a-hole move. OP says to another commenter, I understand the concern. The line between a service dog and an emotional support animal can get blurry when we are talking about disabilities like anxiety. My dog is trained to do multiple tasks related to my disability. Deciding I needed her was a long conversation with other disabled friends and my therapist from that time. She is trained to perform pressure therapy to prevent or shorten severe anxiety attacks. Yes, she is a service dog. Commenter 2 says, not the jerk. You responded to another poster sharing specific tasks your dog is trained to perform that supports your needs for your disability. If this was a dog that helped you navigate because you were blind, I doubt anyone would question this. I'm sorry that someone like your own sister isn't being understanding of your need to have your service animal with you. It is absolutely okay if this makes it so you cannot attend. Your sister is the one forcing you to have to make a choice here, and that is on her. I hope you already know and believe this, but your needs are valid. Your anxiety and depression are valid, and your identities are valid. Honestly, you may have a much nicer day if you spend it with people who support you for exactly who you are instead of going somewhere where the pastor and family won't make you feel that way. Update 4 years later. Reddit suggested I post here, so I thought I'd give it a shot. Original Am I the Jerk post. 4 years ago, my sister banned my service dog from her wedding. Let's get a few things out of the way. Tara is an Australian Shepherd/Border Collie mix. Black and brown brindle, and the calmest, most friendly dog I have ever met. Tara is trained to do sensory grounding. My disabilities are mental health related. I'm in therapy. I finally found a medication combo that works. I'm in a safe environment where I can heal. I am no contact with both my sister and my brother. Starting with my brother, because it's a shorter story. Brother is controlling and verbally abusive. When I went to college, I learned 2 things. I have disabilities and how to say no. My brother does not like the latter and blames the former. I told him flat out that if he wants a relationship with me, he needs to get therapy. Then, when he tried to text me after that, I'd send a therapy-related GIF. Last time we had an actual conversation, he said, I preferred you before you thought you were broken. I blocked him. Not for the first time, but this time, it's permanent. Now, to my sister. Oh dear ghosts, my sister. There is, of course, the reason for my original Am I the Jerk post. My sister banned my service dog from her wedding. Why? Quote, I don't want dog hair on the most expensive dress I'll ever wear. She and her husband have never liked tarot. They are also convinced my disabilities are fake. That pattern has continued. Before this even happened, I wasn't allowed to visit my sister in the hospital after her C-section with my nephew. She claimed it was because service dogs can't go in the maternity ward. This is false. Before Tarot, was the Phantom of the Opera incident. My sister and I were both music nerds. We've actually played in a local orchestra together. I'm obsessed with Phantom of the Opera. Phantom of the Opera was coming to my state one year, and I asked if she wanted to go. She did. She got tickets. I was gonna pay her back. A couple of months before the show, I noticed a charge I didn't make on my bank card. I did not react well. I was afraid of either fraud or my dad doing something. He's done things without telling me before. I was having a panic attack and was very bad at managing my behavior during those back then. Therapy has helped. I called, frantic and pissed. Turns out my sister and her now husband had bought a movie on Amazon using my card by accident. Her husband got pissed that I was freaking out over a relatively low charge. I'm not sure if I apologized. She called me back a few minutes later and told me she wasn't going to go to Phantom because it was obviously too expensive for me. That hurt. After crying my eyes out and talking to a friend, I called her back and said, "We can go? You can take a friend to the show, or I can buy the tickets from you." She chose the last one. I went with my best friend. Sister's husband continues to be a bastard. My parents and I are both seeing emotionally abusive behavior. Problems have happened between him and my parents, but those aren't my stories to tell. However, their treatment of my parents is one of the reasons I stopped wanting to talk to her. Then there's the Great Christmas fiasco. My parents used to make prime beef for family Christmas. In an attempt to include my sister's husband, Dad offered to let the husband cook the prime beef. He did. Everyone went over to my parents' house. We did gifts in the morning. My niece got a little robot dog with fake treats. At the time, my parents had a 15-year-old Sichuan Oreo. He passed last year. Rest in peace, love. 2 things about Oreo. He had significant vision loss at this time, and he was obsessed with food. So I asked my sister's husband if we could put the fake treats up so Oreo, not Tarot, wouldn't eat them. 'Cause Oreo would. Sister's husband flipped out about my dog. I was overstimulated, so I didn't hear much of it. Then I took a nap, which was planned and approved before I went over. When I woke up for lunch, sister's family was gone. My sister's husband told me through my sister that it was because of Tarot. He told my mom it was because he didn't like that she took pictures of him. He apparently doesn't like being in photographs. I have no idea why. My parents don't use social media, so it's not because he's worried about that. After that, I tried to keep in contact with my sister. I'd call. She never answered. I'd text. No reply. I would literally ask if she was alive. Nope, nothing. She'd break plans with my parents if she found out I was going to be there. Last time I saw her was 2 Halloweens ago. Before then, my older nephew got a golden retriever puppy, which is hilarious. She's gonna have dog hair in her house for at least 2 more years. My much younger niece and nephew love my older nephew's dog. They also love Tarot, despite the few times they met. My niece has told Tarot to sit. My small nephew has literally sat on Tarot and would pet her once, very gently, and laugh. When they came over that Halloween, my sister wouldn't let her kids, especially my niece, near my dog. My niece was wearing a white Elsa dress. The final nail in the coffin. I was in the hospital with pneumonia. My mom or dad stayed with me in the hospital to help with Tarot. I couldn't take her outside, as I could barely breathe and was attached to oxygen and an IV. I named it STIV. My sister needed something from my parents' house and called my mom. I talked to her for about 5 seconds when my mom said I was in the hospital. Well, apparently, the reason she needed something from my mom's house is because her husband decided to move. My sister didn't bother to tell me. It made me realize just how unwelcome I was in her life and how I wasn't willing to be hurt by her anymore. I blocked her. It's not something I did on a whim. I had been talking about it with my therapist for a while. We talked about if this was a relationship worth putting energy into. It finally hit the point where it wasn't. That's where things stand. My mom is being supportive, as best as she can, about my disabilities. Dad basically ignores that they exist. Pretty much everyone else we encounter, from extended family to friends to strangers, is perfectly fine with Tarot and me, so we're sticking with the people who accept us. Thanks for reading. Scaling Stories Corner. So it sounds like a lot of the incidents where OP's sister is turning on OP is when the sister's husband is involved. So I'm thinking that this guy is hella controlling and possibly abusive. Like when a random charge was made on OP's account and they're panicking because they don't know who made it, why is he, and I'm also guessing OP's sister is also joining in with him, making fun of OP for being stressed out over a low charge? Because who cares if the charge was like $5 or $20 or however many dollars? It's the fact that OP didn't make that charge. If I saw on my bank account that I got a random charge that I didn't make, no matter how much it was, even if it was just like 50 cents, I'd be stressed at some level too because it was an unauthorized transaction. Like, if someone can charge me 50 cents, what's not to say they can charge me like $50 or $5,000 as well? As for OP's sister, even if the husband is controlling and abusive, her behavior towards OP is malicious, even if it's directed from her husband. It could also be entirely true that her sister has a jerk personality and she's a match made in heaven for her husband. But her actions are still very mean to OP and hurt OP deeply. So it makes sense that OP has to cut her off. And also the stupid brother who said that crap about not having anything wrong with them or not needing the support that OP gets. I forgot which. So it makes sense to cut all these people off who don't want to support you. Or not you, but in this case OP. In life, because instead of being rude and mean and like ignorant, they could just not say anything at all. But instead, they choose to inflict harm. So there's no need to waste any energy or brain cells interacting with people like that. Now here are some of the top/relevant comments from the update post. OP comments, I reread my post, and I think I forgot to mention that my sister doesn't think anxiety and depression are real, that I can choose to just stop being depressed or having anxiety. If I had an off switch, I would never turn it back on. She thinks I'm faking needing Tarot. For the record, faking needing a service dog makes no sense to me. Training takes a lot of work. Having a dog in public access is challenging. The world isn't built for disabled people. For instance, I like to swim. I have to go to an indoor pool because I don't want my dog in the 100 degrees plus Fahrenheit weather for a long period of time. That is more expensive. My parents are being very nice and helping pay for a membership at a place with an indoor pool. They and I agree that I need to work on being a bit healthier. I carry a 15-pound portable kennel to the pool and a blanket for my dog. It's huge and cumbersome. I use it so people will leave her alone. I could put Tarot on the blanket and she'd happily watch everyone from there, but people wouldn't leave her alone. Speaking from experience. Then there's the big issue, finding a job that's compatible with a service dog. There are lots of job openings, but most of them are medical, food service, or manufacturing. The health department has a problem with the first two, and the second is dangerous for my dog. I've been out of work since December of 2024. It's July of 2026. I'm hoping to find a job soon. I had a long conversation with my older nephew about how I can't just leave Tarot at home to go to work. I'm not sure if he understands, but I hope he does. We're talking a little bit. Commenter 1 says, your family members are abusers. That thing coming at you from your sister is likely arising from her husband's dislike of you or neurodivergent folks, or he's a gaping jerk. They may both be true. I'm sorry. You deserve to be treated like a human being with basic decency and good manners. OP says, her husband being a grade A piece of crap is definitely part of the problem. Thank you. Commenter 1 says, she's treating you the way he talks about you when you're not there. I regret to inform you that your sister is a mean, hateful girl. OP says, I regret to inform you that I know she is. Commenter 1 says, sounds like they probably deserve each other's hateful company. OP says, I wouldn't say that. We're pretty sure my sister's husband is at least emotionally abusive. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Her hate is being heavily influenced by his. I've always seen the red flags. I think he knows. Still, while this is the reason and sometimes people are blind to the abuse they are experiencing through no fault of their own, it doesn't excuse my sister's behavior. She's making her choices. I hate it, but there's nothing I can do. She has to pull herself out of that relationship. I hope she does. That doesn't mean I want her in my life again. Okay friends, so that concludes today's video. Leave a like and comment down below to let me know what you thought of it, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.